Couple of minutes this side of 11 o'clock. Friend of the program, friend of the radio station, and absolute local phenom. That's Mike Mamoni and his band Mutts. The name of that song, Treason. Welcome to a Friday edition of the Mornings with Ed show on the all-new Voice of Laguna. I promise it will clear up here along the coast. But gray or not, beautiful day nonetheless. I hope wherever you happen to be listening from across the globe, it's an equally beautiful moment in time for you as well. So Brad Barber was going to be a high school teacher here at Laguna Beach High School. And then just a twist. There's a fork in the road for all of us. And now that AI has become so prevalent, we're going to be talking about AI in education. So we welcome to the program for the conversation this morning, Brad Barber. How are you, Brad?
Good to be here, Ed.
It's great to have you.
Beautiful location.
Thank you. I'll never leave. I love coming to work for that reason.
Look at that. Not very many people have an ocean view from their studio.
This is as good as it gets, and I feel really fortunate, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful to have you here this morning. Thank you for taking the time with us.
Thank you.
It's an important subject because I may be one of those that may be a little more curious about AI in education than others. I have the opinion. I don't have any kids in school, so I don't have skin in the game as far as kids in school go. You're the father of 4, so you have skin in the game for sure.
Yeah.
But as an educator, where do you see AI fitting into education? By the way, I should mention, you have started the Tesla Academy here in town.
Yep, just right at the end of Laguna Canyon and Lake Forest.
Okay.
Yep.
Tell us about the Tesla Academy.
So we are, in academia terms, called a blended learning academy. We combine online learning with the classroom setting.
Right.
When we started about 15 years ago, that was pretty revolutionary. And, COVID made everyone think they did online learning during COVID, but they really just did some Zoom and maybe some Google Classroom.
Right.
But we're based it off some studies out of Harvard. A mentor of mine, Clayton Christensen, did a lot of studying on that. He did a lot of books on business, and that's how I came to know him from the business world. But then he wrote one called Disrupting Class, and he described how education would be disrupted with technology and online learning, and how the learning model would and should flip.
Okay.
And so I was planning on going to teach at Laguna Beach High School, and then I sold a business, went back to get my master's degree in education and my teacher credential, and I had some contacts at Laguna Beach High School. And but then when I was getting my credential, I was realizing education hasn't changed since my grandparents went to school.
Right.
There's still a teacher in the front of the room, and we have whiteboards instead of chalkboards.
Right.
We've got PowerPoint instead of overhead projector.
Right.
But the method of teaching really hasn't changed much.
Right.
You're still sitting in a classroom lined up, and we go block schedule instead of periods, but method hasn't changed. So we started the Tesla Academy, and we combine online learning with the classroom setting. And I think it's not a great model for everybody, but I think it's a fantastic model for many to most. Right. We're a small private academy, so we kind of hand select our students. So they come there to make sure it's a good fit, make sure it's a good fit for us and the student. But anyways, this AI, we were worried about Google Answers before, where you could just look up any answer, Google Answers, and there's a lot of websites. They were called cheating websites, but websites make money off clicks. Right. And so if people found out, hey, if we put answers on the web, on the internet, kids are going to go there and look at the answers, and we'll get ad rev.
Right.
And so sites like Google Answers, Chegg, a bunch of these websites developed. And so that's what we started. That was like the thing. And we could put filters on our internet and kind of weed it out that way.
Right.
But then about 3 to 4 years ago, AI came on, ChatGPT primarily, but there's a bunch of them now. And that really has and continues to radically change the learning dynamic.
Should parents with students be scared that their kids are dumbing down?
Yes.
And I've made the argument that we're going to have a dumber generation.
Yes. I'm not anti-AI, though, and be clear on that.
Right.
It's going to change how we do things, but the best I love analogies, and so and even I share this with our students here. I'm like, imagine being handed a calculator in kindergarten or first grade when you first start learning about numbers.
Right.
And you're like, hey, 2 + 4 is what? And you have to sit there and figure that out.
Right.
When you're in first grade, and you're like 4, and then you learn how to do division, long division.
Right.
Imagine that you just had a calculator the whole time. Where would you be now? And they'd be like, I'd be screwed.
Right.
Like I would not even understand. The numbers would just look like characters, like a foreign language, and I wouldn't know what they mean. I could tell you the answer, but I wouldn't know what that means. Well, multiply that by 100x, and that's what AI is. There's no critical thinking.
How do we avoid that?
Great question. I think you have to, and this for if you're an educator or a parent, you have to explain the why. So we're so used to kids just doing what we want them to do because I'm your parent, I'm your teacher.
Right.
And you have to explain, why are we doing this? Why are we learning this? Why are you writing? And again, I'm in analogies. It's like, why do you go to the gym? Because learning is a gym for the mind.
Right.
Why do you go to the gym? What do you go to the gym? You just had surgery. You're in rehab.
I'm doing
therapy, right?
doing physical therapy every day.
You've got a little stepper stool underneath your seat right now where you're walking on step. Why?
To better my health, to better the hip, to strengthen the muscle.
Okay, you didn't walk for how long after your surgery?
I literally was walking the day of, but down for about a week and a half.
Okay, so imagine going to the gym, like your parents say, you got to go to the gym, you got to go to the gym, you got to go to the gym, and then you're at the gym, and then you find out other kids are in the gym because their mom and dad want them to go to the gym. Everyone tells them to go to the gym, and then they walk into the gym, and then they look around and like, these kids aren't working out. They're just sitting on the weight bench, just sitting there staring at their phone.
Right.
And then you got a couple other people that are they have a spotter, but the spotter's lifting the weight for them the whole time. Right. And then they walk out of the gym and go, "Yeah, I went to the gym today." Right. Did you? Right. Yeah, you physically went to the gym. Right. And so yeah, you physically may have gone to school. You may have physically did your homework, but did you really? Did you work out? What's the purpose of going to the gym? It's to get stronger. And so you have to explain what is the purpose of going to school. And I'm high school only, so one of the first questions I ask students is, why you go to school? And they have never thought, most of them have never thought about it.
Right. Because I have to, is essentially, I'm sure the answer. Because I have to.
You see them think, and they're like, and then they give you the answer that you want to hear.
Right.
And then I'm like, no, really, why do you go? If your parents told you you don't have to go anymore, would you go? And they've never been asked that before.
Right.
And then they think about it. And some were like, no. And then some are like, yeah. And I'm like, well, why? And if they say why, they eventually articulate, because I want to learn. I want to get smarter. I'm like, why? Mm-hmm. Well, because I want to be able to make money. And we're in South Orange County. It's not cheap to live here. Mm-hmm. I'm like, do you know what it costs to live here? Mm-hmm. And they haven't thought of those whys. And so they realize, yeah, you got to be pretty intelligent to be able to figure out how to make a living, to have a lifestyle that many of us like to have here. Right. And then the people who say, yeah, no, I'd quit school tomorrow. I go, great. What would you do? Where would you live? Right. How'd you pay for it? And then, so you have to explain the why. Right. And kids are smart. They're smart enough to realize my brain at 14 to 16 years old isn't strong enough to be able to make it out in the financial world. To
find that realization, though, at a 14 or 15-year-old, to understand that, first of all, you have to be prompted by the adult. Mm-hmm. They have to be prompted by their teacher. They have to be prompted by hopefully responsible enough parents to ask that question.
Yeah, you got to have those conversations.
Right. So the onus is on the adult at that point to make sure that the child or the kid understands why. Not just kids, but our species, from the very first caveman, has tried to always find the easier way.
Yeah.
We first sharpened stones to throw a spear, and then we found, there's gunpowder. So we always look for the easier way.
It's a natural man to do that, right? Natural tendency.
Right. What is the where's the toss back from AI to where they're not going to look for the easy way out? It seems like a big responsibility at that point to change.
Well, I even think teens, but if you're adults listening to this, we have, all of us have grown the most when we've gone through hard things.
Right.
We don't grow personally unless we go through hard things, difficult things, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Right. We don't grow. So you have to be pushed and not do it easy. So I always say, like, the natural man, the natural tendency is to not want to be pushed. We want it easy. And some of us as parents, have you heard the term lawnmower parent? Right. You've heard helicopter parent.
I have.
Have you heard lawnmower parent?
I have not heard lawnmower parent.
Okay. Helicopter parent hovers over and like keeps an eye on things, and maybe with the megaphone, hey, leave my kid alone. The lawnmower parent goes in front of the kid and just mows down any bump, anything in their way. Makes it super smooth. and easy for them.
Right.
And I don't think that does your child service, good service. So just like growth requires discomfort. And yes, sitting down and doing math problems or writing an essay, coming up with the thesis statement, that struggle is where we grow. And the struggle is what teens that are using AI they're cheating themselves out of that struggle. Because the struggle is not turning in the paper. That's not the struggle. The struggle is like, what am I going to write about? I'm going to write it and then go, oh, that doesn't work. I need to start over again. That's the struggle. And that's where I'm not a scientist, but you get into the brain cells growing. It's just like we understand our physical muscles growing. When we do a curl, we can feel our arm muscle get tight and strong, and then we feel sore the next day. And then we're told no pain, no gain, right? So that motivates us to do it again. Well, our brain functions that same way.
As we learn more neurons fire,
Exactly.
and thus the brain grows, and
we're either atrophying or we're growing.
There we go.
And that young phase is so critical because you and I aren't on our younger years, but like working out as hard as we are now, we're not going to get the gains as we would if we were in our 20s or even our teens, right? So the brain of a preteen to early, maybe 25, that's the sponge era of our brain. And if we cheat ourselves of that and we atrophy at that young of an age, that's not good.
Okay, and I'm going to play the devil's advocate here because even as a young man who did really well in school, and I always had a pencil and paper, and I was always the guy that, other people looked on my sheet of paper to get the answers. I was that guy. I still made some really dumb choices. All across the board, personal life, education, and everywhere. I made really dumb choices.
But the fact that you're admitting that means you grew from it.
There you go. So with AI, do you see eventually education being regulated to the point to where, yes, and I want to ask you first, before I ask you that question, I should have asked you, AI, what's the advantage in an education?
Advantage during it as a educator or as the student?
As a student.
I think you need to know it exists. I'll give you I came here straight from my campus, and I have one student that's he had a rough time in school. He's been to a few schools. He's highly intelligent, but just had other challenges that he struggled with. And he's in AP Calc.
Okay.
Not an easy class.
Right.
You have to have these conversations individually with the students, but he was using AI in his calculus today. And he was using it properly.
Okay. And how is the proper use of it?
Was, he's like, he's just drilling AI, why this? And we were doing trig identities, if you even know what those are. And he didn't understand why that is an identity. Where's the origin of that identity? And he was just going down the rabbit hole of like, why is that? Explain that. Give me another example. He was using it as a teacher.
As a tool.
As a tool.
Right.
And I'm like, this is a beautiful way to use it.
Right.
But, and we should all know our own children, our own students well enough to know, like, you can't handle it yet.
Right.
Because at some phases of life, you're like, as soon as you see the answer, you're like, I'm just going to bubble B. Right. So he uses it perfectly, but I don't think that can be across the board for all students yet. Right. So you need to learn how to use it, and so there should be some classes on how to use it, and we're learning how to implement that. This is so new, Ed, that it's hitting everyone. What the first correction what colleges did is no longer. Everything went. Do you remember blue books for taking tests?
Yeah.
Yeah, you took like they're that old, right?
Yeah.
Not that you're old, but like they're that old. Colleges went back to using blue books for testing.
Okay.
Because it was such a problem. They're like, we don't know how to fix it. You're going blue books.
Right. Okay.
And then now there's some ways that technology, we're using AI to counter AI, and like it's still developing.
Which brings me back to the original question of regulation for it in education. And do you ever foresee, if we had a crystal ball and you could see 20 years into the future, will education be regulated?
What I worry about is overcorrecting, and some overcorrecting is going to like handwritten blue book, right? We don't handwrite stuff. Like I'm a typer, like we should type, but that's an overcorrection. Overcorrection is I'm going to give this student if they get this math homework done in 2 minutes using AI, I'm going to give them 100 more problems. That doesn't solve the problem, right? So it's like, we'll give you more work to try to solve it. So I think we just have to educate how to use it. I think there should be regulation. Like, why don't we allow first graders use calculators?
Right.
The same reason as we shouldn't let them use AI at a certain age. I don't know what the age is, but I think at high school, we don't shy away from it and say it doesn't exist, but we're small enough at our academy that we're able to just have this direct conversation and go, okay, they're smart enough to realize your brain's going to atrophy if you don't use it properly. So what's the purpose here? Why are you here? I've already had that conversation with them. Like, why are they here? Why do they want to go to school? And if they're using AI, I'm like, well, why pay this money? Why waste this time? Go get a job.
Right.
Why sit in this classroom, pretend like you're learning when you can go make money instead?
I think the greatest thing that ever happened to me was using macaroni to learn math.
Yeah, because you saw it.
Yeah,
you experienced it.
You can visually see it. You can see the subtraction of 5 macaroni from 10. All of that. Do kids experience that same kind of learning with AI?
The one student I explained today, he did.
Okay.
He was diving into it. And at some point I was like, all right, I think you understand the concept. You're going like a couple layers too deep. Let's move on. Because we have these other things. So it's teaching them how to use it. I'll give you one other way for advice for parents, because when I have this conversation with parents and students, like before they enroll, we meet with the parents and the student, and I have a frank conversation about AI. Some of these parents have no idea it exists. So there's this app called Photomath. And there's an app, and I could hand Ed a AP calculus exam, and he would just hold his camera over each problem, take a picture, and any of the AIs do it now. But Photomath was the first one to make it really easy. And then it would just go, okay, here's step 1, step 2, step 3. Every step perfectly laid out for you. And the parent usually goes, who doesn't know about it, like, that's amazing. That's a great way to learn. And I go, yes, you're right. And then I look over to the kid and I say, but would you use that to learn, or do you just look down to the bottom and look at the answer? And they're like, I just look at the answer. And so our brains as adult thinks differently than when you're 15 years old. And so there should be some regulations, but at the same time, we need to I think educators need to educate on why we learn. And an educator, the tough part about an educator now is you have to have it when you have a classroom with 40, 50 kids. It's frankly hard to get those kids to respect you, all of them. You can get a handful of them. So we have a luxury of being small where it's easier for us than a public school teacher, for sure.
Growing up, and I'm sure this is the case for every student, you have educators like you who are hands-on and care and are cognizant of each individual's different needs. I also had teachers that were just mailing it in. And we see that in our school systems, our public school systems. We see it everywhere.
It's burnout sometimes.
Yes. Is that going to pose a problem down the road?
For who? For what?
For the student, might come across the teacher or two that they have throughout the course of a day that's just mailing it in and going,
they know that. They can tell. It's obvious. They're not hiding it. It's pretty easy. Who's phoning in. So kids are smart. So guess what? Those are the classes that kids are probably not going to try as hard in. They're going to look for the easy way out because they're like, this person doesn't inspire me. I can tell they're phoning it in. So top down, we have to, in education and as parents, we want to inspire kids, and the inspire has to be not just show up physically. It's what are we going to, now that you're there, what are you going to do, and how are you going to learn it, and where's that going to take you?
We have, over the progression of time, become smarter as a species, at least with the ability to get information. At least we're smarter that way. Is this helping that? Is AI helping that?
I don't think we know the answer to that. My opinion is it's going to make some a lot smarter and a lot more people less smart. Their brain's going to atrophy. So it's the problem is it's hitting the youth at an age where their brain is developing very rapidly, and so that's the concern I see. That's why we wanted to get together and talk about this.
Right. This is a fascinating conversation, and I appreciate your honesty behind it.
We don't know the answer, but I could tell you, if you listen to the interviews for those that have developed AI, they're really worried. Yeah. And it's similar to where if you go back and still find the interviews of the early pioneers of social media, they didn't let their kids on social media. Right. And look at the mental health results of that. They knew what was going to happen. Right. And they didn't let their kids get on it as kids on their social media, but yet we see the mental health crisis we have that I firmly believe is there's a correlation and causation with social media.
You and me both. And as you teach, throughout the course of your day, obviously, not obviously, do you allow your students to utilize their phones?
Yes.
Okay.
But yes, but again, we're small enough for like, give me your phone.
Right.
Like we're training our high schoolers for the real world. In the real world, I have my phone sitting right here. Right. I've probably got 15 texts while I'm talking to you.
Right.
I have to know how to ignore that.
Right.
And so, you've got every app wants you, no matter what app it is, wants you to turn alerts on. So it's bleep, 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 alerting you all day long.
Right.
And so if a high schooler doesn't know how to control that and they're constantly getting pulled, then it's like, well, if you don't know how to control that, I'm going to control it for you. But I want you to learn how to control it.
Right.
So it's just a level of expectation. So in a public school, I think they shouldn't have phones because you can't control 50 kids because you're going to have 10 in that classroom and don't give a crap.
Right.
And so why do they get to do it and I don't?
Right.
And so in a smaller environment where they know that you can individualize it for the students, then you know why I'm taking it from you.
Right. And in your academy in particular, in the Tesla Academy, is there a limit to class size? And if for instance, it grows enough to where you're bulking out, will you cut it off at a certain number of students?
We max out about 40 students.
Okay.
40, we go 50, just mainly because our facility. And mainly because beyond that, it becomes something other than what I want to do.
Right.
So you can't impact. I mean, I have a team of learning coaches that work with it, but I'm doing this because I want to make an impact on the students. And so if it gets, education is a weird business because you have to make a living.
Right.
But you also may have to make an impact, and there's two things fighting at each other. So I don't make this be a commercial about Tesla Academy.
Right. It's important, though. It's important to understand.
I wouldn't grow big enough to where that would become a problem, where I'd have to figure that out.
Okay. And parents. Well, I want to go back to parents for a second. And much like educators, some are unbelievably great. And like you said, there's the helicopter parent. There's the lawnmower parent. I get those. Mm-hmm. The opposite of those. There are parents who just allow, they want the teachers to raise their kids.
Yeah, there's some of that, yeah.
And maybe the child, the student, wants more than that. Mm-hmm. And I'm really curious.
That's where a teacher can really make an impact. And so we hear those stories of that teacher that made that impact in the kid, or you have individuals that like this one, Mr. Johnson in my 7th grade really made an impact. Right. We need more of those.
Right.
That's hard to do. But
is it too easy to be a teacher? Is it too easzy to become a teacher? Do some people slip through the cracks and they're not qualified?
Yes, I think for sure. I mean, I was an adult, 30-something years old. Maybe I was 40. I don't know. Mid-30s going back to school, a bunch of 20-year-olds to become teachers.
Right.
So, like, I'm asking questions. They're like, would you just shut up? I just want to get done with class.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not doing this to get a job. I'm doing this to make a difference. So I'm like, I'm the guy, the annoying older person asking questions. And there was some, I'm like, really? You're going to run a classroom? Right. Personalities. And then I think this might be controversial, and I might offend some teachers here. And my thesis for my master's was, I think teacher tenure for high school students is kind of dangerous.
Okay.
Tenure for research colleges is good because they might study and research controversial things. And we want to push the envelope at the high level university. But at the high school level, once you get past 3 years, unless you do something pretty bad, you're not getting fired.
Right, okay.
And they'll even just park you, and then you don't even have to teach. You'll just park in a district office and still get paid.
Right.
And that's with burnout happens, and in a long career, if you just imagine you're on radio. Radio is highly competitive, right?
Right.
right? Like, imagine the idea of never, like, unless you just really, like, almost have to go to jail, you're not going to lose your job.
Right.
You can phone it in and be fine. Right. Check all the boxes and be fine, but you're not making an impact. And then every single person in school can name teachers that, and even other teachers can, but I think we as teachers kind of protect our own.
Right.
But I think that I don't know if there's a solution to that. I can't solve that, but
that's
that's just reality.
What a great paper that must have been. I would love to read that thesis. A teacher that made a difference in your life?
I don't even remember his name, but I remember it was in 8th grade, Nagel Hills Middle School, and it was pre-algebra. But he tricked us. But he said he would look around, like, okay, you can't tell your high school teachers I taught you this. And so we're like, what, really? He's like, I'm going to teach you some tricks. So in high school algebra, you're going to do it way better. And we're like, oh, okay. We all listen. And he's like, you guys got to tell me. You're not going to tell your high school teacher. And we're like, okay. He taught us FOIL. He taught us how to factor with the box method, right?
Right.
He's like, look, you can't, if your teacher comes, don't show him the box. He made it seem like we were just cracking the code.
Right.
So I remember getting to high school and like, oh, dude, I know how to solve this. It's going to be so, and I'm not going to show anybody.
Brilliant.
And then my teacher's like, good job using FOIL. I'm like, how did you know? And I'm like, oh, that guy.
Brilliant.
But he got me to think like I'm getting away with something.
Right.
And I was excited about it. And then even after I found out, I'm like, but I was like, man, you sucker. But like, I'm thankful for that because I still don't know how to do that.
My daughter went to Nagel Hills Middle School when she was younger. So I'm curious as to who that professor was or who that teacher was.
I can't remember. Yeah. But because at the time he was just a math teacher.
Right.
But then after I'm like, oh,
right.
It was great.
In younger education, in the elementary, preschool, kindergarten, first grade, in those formative learning years where the brain is just now starting to take shape, what's missing?
I may not be good at answering this because my kids are, I'm almost an empty nester with 4 of our kids.
Congratulations, by the way.
It's been a while, but I think what my wife, primarily, I was so busy traveling for work. My wife just did a fantastic job of observing the children and what their weak areas were and filling in the gap, and then asking the teacher questions. Where are they strong? Where do they need improvement? And every child's different. And so where one was struggling with reading, okay, well, how we need to address that. And one was struggling with math, okay, we need to address that. And so I think and I think these lawnmower parents have scared away a lot of teachers from being honest in their parent reviews.
Right.
So they're afraid to say, hey, Johnny doesn't know how to add, or Johnny can't read very good because they're not saying he's dumb, parents.
Right.
They're just saying they're not up to grade level and they need some extra work, extra time.
Right.
And I think because they get fired back so often now from parent, they get gun shy and they're like, oh, I'm never doing that again. And it just takes one parent to yell at them. What do you mean my kid's dumb? What do you mean this? Are you calling my kid dumb?
Right.
And then I guess that teacher's going to say, all right, cool, I'm never doing that again.
Right.
And, so teachers should get a little thicker. That right then you should think, hey, you got tenure. You're not getting fired for telling the truth. Mm-hmm. So that would be a good use of it, right? Mm-hmm. And then but it hurts your feelings when a parents get mad at you for being straight up.
Right.
And I think teachers all are in it for the good. They don't get, sure, it's stable,
right.
But you're not in it for the money.
I've always said, and I've grown up with the thought in my head that there really is no more noble profession than that of a teacher, that of an educator.
The ones that don't check out, the ones that aren't phoning it in. And there's a lot of them doing that.
Right.
So.
All right. And thank you for being one of them that is a part of the nobility behind it. Before I let you go, are any one of your 4 kids thinking about becoming educators?
My second oldest daughter, not an educator. She actually worked for me last year at our academy. She graduated in psychology, but she wants to go on, I think, and get her master's degree, but work in psychology at a school, be a school psychologist. Right. So
that's what my daughter does.
That's what she met with some around here, and so that's the avenue she would like to pursue. So, and because, she also she went to my academy and also went to traditional high school and saw the both. And I think she realized, like, being a traditional teacher is you don't make as it's hard to make an individual impact, but you can as that. And doing what we do is very impactful as well.
All right. Brad Barber, and again, it's not a commercial for the Tesla Academy, but if we've got more people like you, I think that education is on the right path.
Thank you.
Let's continue the conversation, because it doesn't stop right here.
I'd love it. Yeah. So I didn't want to. I told you, I think in the email, I don't want it to be a commercial about the academy.
No, but
I think a lot of
parents you got something going here.
Are ill-equipped, and we need to be aware of it and realize your 15-year-old, your 12-year-old, your 10-year-old doesn't think like you. You have an adult brain. They're thinking of like that shorter, how do I get away with it? How do I get away with it? And you need to say, I'm going to give you some hacks to be successful in life. Like, we love life hacks, right? The life hack is learn. Like, we'll end with this. We said, like, the future, like, there's going to be few that leverage it and are going to be hyper successful because they are going to know how to leverage AI, and then the bigger chunk of the pie is going to get dumber. But if we can go, hey, kid, son, daughter, tell them that and say, I want you to be these ones that are going to be successful, because right now is such a good opportunity to leapfrog ahead of a lot of your peers, because they're going to be like just Photomat, ChatGPT, everything. And if you're not, sure, it's going to be a little harder for you now, but that's like going to the gym and you working out a lot harder. You're going to have massive muscle gains. You're going to have massive brain gains, and you're going to be so ahead of the curve that success will come at you.
Okay.
It's like my math teacher did. Like, let me give you this little secret.
Yeah.
And that is the secret. Like, you can use this and you're going to be well ahead of all your peers. And those that get that, you're going to be way more successful. And I'm not financial success, just successful navigating life, solving problems. When life hits you in the face, you're going to know what to do with it.
Right. One more thing, and I promise this will be it for you. I promise. But the use of social media can be positive in the way of, for instance, they've got people they've got millions of followers and they're making just recipes. They're cooking. Here's how you do this. Here's how you make this dish. I wonder if you would be willing to do something like that for parents. Like have a page that's dedicated to instructing parents about
being an influencer would be like the worst thing. Because I make fun of that. So I this is hard putting myself out on here, but it's just you and me in the studio here, so it's easy. But yeah, so I don't know.
I think it's necessary, but we'll talk down the road. Brad Barber, Tesla Academy. Thank you so very, very much for being here.
Thanks, Ed. Have a great day.
Thank you. We'll look forward to talking to you again.
Though, right?
You brought it with you. Look.
All right.
11:37 the time. 23 minutes before noon. I learned to do that because of the macaroni in Miss Snyder's class. Thank you very much. It's the voice of Laguna, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young.